All right. I think we're live now. I think we're going. All right. So let's get the disclaimers out of the way here real quick, and then we'll get started. We'll get into the actual live chat. So this is a weekly live broadcast. Again, my name's Chris. And if you guys are looking for answers to questions about quail, rabbits, gardening, some of those kinds of things, I'll do my best to answer them for you. We do this pretty much every Thursday evening, 7 o'clock Central Time. Sometimes things get in the way and I can't make it, but most of the time, Thursday evenings, I'm here, 7 o'clock Central. And I do my best to respond to every chat that comes in during the live chat itself. So if you don't spam us with comments, don't be rude, don't be hateful, don't start cussing, kinds of things. But everything else is pretty much fair game. You can recommend another YouTube channel, another YouTube video from somebody else. I don't care about any of that. That doesn't bother me a bit. We can have friendly debates. Like I said, just don't be rude or hateful about it. That's the only things I ask. We'll have to kick you out. We're all friends here. We can have differences of opinions and still get along, and it's fine. What else was I going to say about it? I think that's pretty much it. So, I do my best to answer every chat that comes in. If you see me answer a question that came in after yours, there is a delay from the time, you leave the comment to the time I get to it. It takes me a little while. And if you see me answer one that comes after yours, you can go ahead and ask it again. But other than that, just give me time, to get to them. So, all right, let's get into it. We've got Blessed with Pets says, can't wait. We headed to dinner. Hope I can catch some. Well, I'm sorry if you're already gone. Hopefully you have a nice dinner. I hope it goes well. And thanks for joining us even for the little bit of time you could. Hey, Ed Got Bates here. Good to see you. Says, hope you and the wife are doing good. How's the greenhouse garden doing? And are you going to do bees like Zach? Well, we are doing well. Thank you for asking. I appreciate that. And yeah, the greenhouse is holding up pretty well. We have terribly windy day today. It's, hang on, let me check, make sure that's not important. It can wait. Terribly windy day today, like 40 mile an hour winds, 45 mile an hour winds, pretty much all day long. And so far, I'm looking out the window to see if it's still blowing. I don't know. I haven't been outside for a little while. But so far, it's holding up pretty well. Nothing. I did go through and have to reinforce it a little bit differently. I went in and put a whole bunch of grommets in and staked it down because what was happening was the weight wasn't enough to hold it down. The wind was catching under the doors and blowing inside and lifting it up and pulling it off the weight. So anyway, I'll maybe shoot video on that at some point and explain what I did. But that seems to be working pretty well. As far as trying bees out, I've thought about it before. I don't know if I ever will or not. It's an idea. Who knows? I may someday get into bees. I don't know. No definite plans on it right now, but maybe. All right, we got Tony from Toronto. Good to see you. Thanks for joining. Emergency Prep Dude from Idaho. Thank you for joining in on the live broadcast. Jesse Mills says, good evening to everyone from Iowa. Good to see you guys. Or good to see you, I guess. Heather, hello to you. And Joy, hello from Western Oregon, all the way over there on the West Coast. Good to see you. Thanks for joining. Little Ridge Farm says, good evening, y'all. Hope everyone is having a great week. It's been a busy week for me. Not bad, just busy. I've been, this is the first night I've been at home off work before like 6, 7 o'clock at night. So it's nice. Good evening to you, Verna. Good to see you. Let's see, who's that? Mom's Pink, I think it is. Hello from Wisconsin. My first time here. Well, awesome. Glad you could make it. Thanks for joining. Helen Bradley's here from Brisbane, Australia. Wow, that's all the way over the other side of the world. Thank you for joining all the way from over there. I don't know, what is it, early morning over there right now? So thanks for taking the time and joining us. Hey, Jasmine's here. Good to see you, Jasmine. Says, hello, Chris and fellow quail rabbit garden friends. It's crazy windy here, too. Yeah, I bet it is. We share the same weather. We're not that far apart, so it makes sense that it would be there. Hey, and Herman from Tulsa, Oklahoma, you probably got all that wind too. If not, you had it. Most of our weather comes from like Tulsa, goes through Tulsa first, and then comes up this direction. So I imagine that all the wind was your way. If not, it's still there. Hello, Charles. Good to see you from Tampa. And Wade says, sent you a message on Facebook today. Very interested in if you can tell me about the quail in the garden for pest control. Thanks. Interesting. Yeah, I'm sorry if you sent me a Facebook message. I usually don't see Facebook messages, don't respond to them. I just get too many of them and I just don't have time. So don't be offended if I don't respond to your message. But as far as pest control in the garden with quail, interesting. I've never thought about doing that. My concern would be, they're not going to stay in your garden. You're going to have some kind of, like, I guess, like tunnels or something that you could build out of maybe chicken wire or something to let them run through down the aisles. And maybe they would do a good job of that. I really don't know. I think they would try. I mean, they'll eat bugs and things, but you wouldn't be able to just let them free range in your garden with no way to keep them in, for two reasons. One, to keep them in there, keep them from leaving, because they'll just go wherever. And secondly, to protect them from predators, because pretty much everything wants to eat quail. But it's an interesting thought. If you do something like that, let us know, because I'd like to know how it works too. I wish I could give you I don't know. I think, yeah, why not try it out, right? If you could build, I've seen people build like chicken tunnels basically out of like chicken wire. They're just a little tunnel basically that runs down the sides of their garden beds, and they let their chickens go through there. So I think you could do the same thing with quail. Why not? See if it works. Hello to you, Boris. Good to see you. The one thing I would be worried about, let me back up for just a second on that. Grab a drink here. You're going to have to do a pretty good job of making it predator proof. One thing you probably don't have to worry too much about with chickens that you would have to worry about with quail would be snakes. It doesn't take a very big snake to eat a quail, whereas it would take a pretty good sized snake to eat a chicken. So you're going to have to work out some way to keep the snakes out probably, but that may not be a big issue either. I don't know. It's worth trying. Let's see. Katrina says hello to everyone from Gilroy, California. I'm listening only. I got to go back I just got back from vacation and working on taxes. Ooh, those things don't go hand in hand. It says it got up to 95 degrees suddenly today. Rabbits all have solar fans and frozen water bottles. Yeah, that's pretty warm for sure. Hopefully they're doing all right. Sharon from Florida, good to see you. And let's see, Dale's Quail is here. Dale's Quails. I always have a hard time with that for some reason. Is here. He says, good evening, everyone. Wisconsin here, Hydro Room is filling up with plant starts, just waiting for spring. Yeah, I know how that goes, man. If you guys haven't checked out Dale's Quails, he does have some fantastic brooders, cages, all those kinds of things. Check them out. Fairly reasonable prices, I believe, and they're really nice. I've seen them in person. They are really nice. Hickory's Tiny Farm says, hey, Chris, how's it going, brother? And then says Team Coke. Well, it's Pepsi. I'm usually a Pepsi drinker, not a Coke drinker. I don't really mind either one, though. Either one's fine. Let's see. Bob says, hey, Chris, what would happen if you knowingly or unknowingly eat a quail that has the bird flu? Nothing. That's a good question. I didn't address that in my bird flu video, but it's fine to eat them because you're cooking, and the temperatures that you're cooking your meat to, and it doesn't matter if it's a quail, a chicken, a turkey, a duck, or whatever, it's fine to eat because the temperatures you're cooking them to is enough to kill the virus. So you don't have to worry about transmitting the virus or any of those kinds of things. As long as you thoroughly cook your meal, you're fine. It's nothing to worry about. Hey, Brandon from Whiskey Tango Farms is here. Says good evening to Chris and everyone. And Ed says, hey, Jess Mills, I feel so much better today. Normal. Huh. I don't know. I didn't know you'd been sick, Ed. I'm glad you're feeling better, though. A. Jones says, hey, all, checking in from the northwest tip of Ohio. Lots of people from Ohio here. And Heather says, I'm syringe feeding a baby rabbit and wanted to share a little first aid tip. Most no kits are hard to feed because they aspirate easily, and then there's more to it. If you're seeing signs of aspiration, hold them with their head between your fingers and pump between the heels of your and rump between the heels of your hands. Then fling your arms down hard. Interesting. I don't know if there's more to it or not. Oh, there's more. There's more. It's not comfortable for them, but it forces the fluid back out of their lungs, and they can breathe easy again. Nice tip. Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate it. All right. Lost Soul Bully says, putting my rabbit watering system from a video of yours. Awesome. Well, hopefully you watched the right video, because when I first built that system, I tried to just like silicone that did not work. Get a, what do you call that? It's like what you connect a hose to a barrel with. There's a name for it. I can't remember the name all of a sudden. What is it? Anyway, they're in my Amazon shop. You can look in there, get one of those, drill a hole, put that in there, and clamp it down. It's I don't remember. But anyway, good luck. Hopefully that works. It's about time to put up well, I don't have any rabbits right now. I'm still looking, but it's about time to put up my quail watering system and take the electric one out of there. Brandon from Whiskey Tango Farm says, hey, Chris, you're going to be at Quail Daddies again are you going to do the Quail Daddies again this year for the 2023 calendar? We're looking for models for Quail Daddies and Quail Mamas this year. I saw a text on that and I forgot to respond to it. I need to, yes, why not? I'll do it, I guess. I don't know I can't remember what the theme is this year and what I need to dress up as, but you guys tell me and we'll get it done. All right. Oh yeah, and congratulations on hitting 1,000 subscribers for you. I forgot about that. A. Jones says, good evening to you. And at Verna, it's been a while. Hope you're doing well. I'll let you guys talk to each other. Let's see where we at here. Wade says, let's see, I'll net the top and electrify the outside to prevent predators. Well, there you go. There's a good idea. Yeah, let us know how it works. Hey, Jamming Mike, good to see you. Little Ridge Farm says, nothing but rain in upstate New York all day today. Yeah, it is that time of year. We're getting a lot of rain. We're getting ready to get a lot of rain. We got more rain coming next day or two. We'll see how it goes, but I think it is. The good thing is that you get a lot of rain, you don't have to water anything. But still sometimes too much rain's not good either. Wade says, plastic netting is a perfect snake trap. I have to remove them years. I have to remove them years when they get into the blueberries. I think there's a typo in there somewhere. I'm not sure. I think you're just saying they get stuck in the plastic netting, so you have to remove them. Well, that makes sense. That might work then. Brad says, hello, first time here. Good evening. Good evening to you, Brad. Thanks for joining us. And let's see, Chris says, hey, Chris, how are you? My baby rabbit has urine burn. What can I do for it? Oh, no, I'm sorry to hear that. My guess is that you probably got it on a solid floor of some kind. So I would replace that with either wire, at least partial wire. You can look at vented resting mats that will let the urine go through and not just pool up where the rabbit's not sitting in it. You could also do deep litter of some kind so that, the urine will soak through. But, lots of cage cleanup would be the key to that. You can kind of wash that spot off. I wouldn't stick it in water, but, a good damp washcloth or something like that, wipe it down a little bit. If you have an infection or something like that, you can use an antibiotic ointment. And, sorry, I thought I heard my dog coming. You can use an antibiotic ointment. Don't use one that has pain reliever in it. Avoid that. But Neosporin or any of that kind of stuff without pain reliever, you can use that on there if it does get infected. But other than that, if you can clean up its habitat and keep it clean, you're gonna have to stay on top of it and make sure it's not sitting in its own urine. It should heal up on its own. Jasmine says, today I finished up 3 hugelkultur beds, set up my strawberry garden, and made my new garden, lasagna-style beds for my sweet potatoes. Do you grow potatoes in ground or straw or grow bag? First of all, congratulations on getting all that done. That's quite a bit to get done. I am way behind. I have lots to do and just don't have time to do it right now. And hugelkultur is a very cool thing. If you guys aren't familiar with hugelkultur, look it up. It's hard to spell. It looks like, I think Jasmine spelled it right. So you can get it from her comment. But basically what you do is you take, if you don't know already, you take a bunch of old wood, usually, the older logs, sticks, that kind of stuff. And those fill up the bottom of the bed. And then you pile on, your compost or, mix, whatever you're going to fill the raised bed in, or you can do them in the ground for that matter. Usually hugelkultur is done, I think it means in German, I think it means something like mound or hill culture or something like that. But usually it's done in ground, not in raised beds, where you're basically just taking a bunch of old, kind of punky wood, logs and those kinds of things, a bunch, quite a bit. And you're piling them up and then you're covering them up with dirt, and you plant into that. And the idea is that, they will, as they start to break down, they're going to feed the soil. And of course, they're going to hold a ton of water in there, about watering nearly as much. There's a lot of benefits to it. Now, what you do want to avoid, and I'm sorry I'm getting off track here, Jasmine, what you do want to avoid is taking like wood chips or something like that and mixing those in with you don't want those mixed throughout your dirt because they're carbon and they're going to steal nitrogen from the soil as they break down. It takes carbon and nitrogen to break those down. They are primarily carbon, whereas it will lock up the nitrogen in your soil, not make it for your plants. And most plants need a good amount of nitrogen. That's what promotes the leafy green growth and all those kinds of things. Now, they will eventually release it once it breaks down. It's going to release all that carbon. But if you've got wood chips on the surface of your soil as a mulch, or wood underneath it, then there is still a carbon lock that occurs, but it's just right there at the surface or right, where the surface is touching the wood. So that's why you don't want to mix like wood chips into your soil, but you can use it as a mulch or you can use it as a base and then fill in. It provides another benefit is it makes your raised beds a whole lot cheaper to fill because you take up a lot of room with just free material, which you can also do with straw and dead leaves. I mean, all kinds of organic matter. Just pile that up in the bottom of your raised beds, and you don't need nearly as much soil to fill the raised bed up. So anyway, do I plant potatoes? I do grow potatoes sometimes. I don't think we're going to do any this year. We might. I don't know. But it's just, I don't know. Potatoes to me are one of those things where I like potatoes quite a bit, but we don't eat a ton of potatoes. And it's not that big a deal to just go buy potatoes when we want potatoes. We can buy a 5-pound bag and, it lasts us. And I mean, we don't eat them all usually before they start, going bad. So, and we don't do that very often, honestly. So if I was going to grow potatoes, I mean, I really like great big roasting, baking potatoes like Idaho, russet potatoes, and those are a little bit trickier to grow. We did grow some last year. I can't remember exactly what variety we grew, but they were, little potatoes, like new potatoes size, and they were good. But I just don't know that it's worth the garden space that I don't know that I just don't know that it's worth it. I don't know that we don't get that much out of it to make it worth it for me. But that's just my opinion. I mean, you would think being Irish, I would just, have to grow potatoes, but I don't mind buying my potatoes because we don't go through that many of them. I do like them quite a bit, but I just don't eat them all that often. But I may change my mind. I may still grow some. Who knows? I've done potatoes in raised beds. Potatoes do really well in raised beds because you got loose soil there, and they kind of require a loose soil. So you don't have to mound them up quite as much as like what you do when you're growing them in the ground. Our potatoes did pretty good. But yeah, or you said or straw or grow bag. Yeah, the way I did them last year, I put in a new raised bed, and I filled it with halfway with straw, and then I put a layer of compost, and I mixed up some. It was like 2 parts compost, 2 parts peat moss, and 1 part perlite, and mixed all that together and made basically a container potting mix is what it is, and filled the rest of the way up with that, and then planted my potatoes into that, and they did really, really well. But I don't know if that I'll grow them again. The same kind of thing with I was at the store. This reminds me of something. I was at the store the other day and I saw they were selling cabbage plants. They were like $3 for a cabbage plant. $3 for 1 cabbage plant. And that just seems ridiculously expensive for 1 head of cabbage. I mean, that's all you're going to get out of that. And I don't know if they had them mispriced or something. That just doesn't seem right. Because I can go to the store and buy a head of cabbage cheaper than I can buy that plant. A lot cheaper than I can buy that plant. I mean, what's a head of cabbage cost now? About less than $2 for a whole head of cabbage. So it's just weird. But anyway, hopefully I got that responded to, Jesse. And you know what? That reminds me, Jasmine, you said you were going to shoot me an email. I don't think I ever got notification of that. I don't know if you did. If you did and I did not respond to you, then I'm sorry. I'll have to try to remember to go check my email. I usually have that stuff forward to another email, but sometimes it doesn't work. So sometimes I don't get notified. Oh, Katrina got it. It's a bulkhead. That's what you want. Thank you. I don't know why I always have such a hard time with that. Yeah, that's what you want. If you're going to build a gravity-fed watering system for your quail or for your rabbits, you want a bulkhead that connects the hose to the bucket itself. That'll keep it from leaking. Works great. It's the way to go. Yeah, Dale's Quail's got it too. It's a bulkhead. You're right. I knew several of you guys would get it for me. And Juan says, yo, yo, yo. I think that means good evening or hello. Yeah, hello to you. Dennis Peel says, good evening from, all right, good evening, all darn late again, or good evening, all darn late again in north central Missouri. Yeah, commas would help with me with that one, but I got it figured out. Hey, don't worry about being late. At least you're here. We appreciate it. All right, so let's see. Sarah says, what's the best type of water for quail? I need somewhere no tap. Wait, I read somewhere no tap. No, my quail and my rabbits and my dog, they all get water straight out of the tap. It's fine. It doesn't hurt them at all. If it bothers you and you want to go through something, you can fill up, buckets of water out of your tap, let it sit for 24 hours, and the chlorine will basically, evaporate out of it. But I don't worry about it. That's what they get. They get it straight out of the tap. It's fine. It doesn't bother them. Wade says, I'll let you know how things work out. Thanks. Thank you. I hope you do. I would like to know. That's an interesting thought. Let's see, Brandon, Whiskey Tango Farms. If anyone wants to be a quail daddy or quail mama, please reach out to Whiskey Tango Farms. Yep. And Wade says, yeah, remove Oh, yeah. But the quail daddy, if you guys are not familiar with the quail daddy calendar we did last year, it was where we all dressed up in kind of, it was after, like, I don't know how to say this without it sounding offensive, but in feminine type stuff, and posed and took pictures. It was just all in good fun and kind of funny. Wade says, yes, remove snakes every year from the netting around the blueberries. Interesting. All right, let's see. Kramer Family Channel says, what's the best way to market rabbit manure, and where should I advertise, and how much should I charge? Oh boy, that's a good question. I've never been super successful with selling rabbit manure. I've sold a few of them here and there, advertised on Craigslist. You could probably advertise on Facebook Marketplace as well. I don't think that would be against their policy. They don't. Facebook doesn't allow you to advertise animals, but rabbit manure selling as fertilizer, I think would be fine. There might even be a market on Amazon. I don't know. I'd have to look into that. But if you are going to sell it like that, you're probably going to want to dry it first. So I would say, set up some kind of system where you can lay it out, maybe in the sunshine, let it dry a little bit. If you just take it fresh and pile it in bags, it's going to get moldy and kind of nasty. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's, people are going to look at that and think, ooh, so you probably want to dry it first so that it is a little bit more marketable. And you can pack it up in Ziploc bags and sell maybe a gallon Ziploc bag. As far as how much to charge for it, charge what people will pay. I don't know. When I sold it before, I was selling it for like $10 for a feed sack full. That's a lot, a whole lot. And I think, people that know what it is are probably willing to pay a little bit more for it than that. I don't know if you could get like a gallon Ziploc bag, if you could get away with $5. I don't know how much it would go for. It's just going to be whatever people are willing to pay. So you may have to kind of experiment with the prices a little bit. My suggestion would be to start off a little bit higher than what you think it should be. And if you're not getting a response, you can lower your price just a little bit. But now's the time, because this is the time that people are planting. And I would say to make sure that if you make an ad for it on like Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist or whatever, leave a little blurb about why it's such a good fertilizer. Look it up somewhere, get some good, make sure it's good copy. Don't just be like, this is a great fertilizer. Quote a source if you can, according to, probably an extension office somewhere or something could tell you, they probably got an article somewhere, and you can quote that and quote that source so that you have an authority behind it telling them why this is great fertilizer for your plants. And, maybe a little instruction booklet that you type up, spend a little bit of time typing up on how to use it or something. It's pretty straightforward, but still those little things will make it go a long way and give it a little bit more perceived value than just a bag of rabbit manure, if that makes sense. So those would be my suggestions on it, but I don't know the price. Let's check real quick while we're at it. Let's look. Let's see on Amazon if anybody's selling rabbit manure. What do you know? There are some people selling rabbit manure. It looks like Rabbit Grow rabbit manure fertilizer. Big that bag is. It looks pretty big, but net contents 0.25 cubic feet. And this looks like it's dried and ground up. It's not like rabbit pellets. It's like grab it. Oh, look at that. You can buy chicken manure on Amazon. I didn't know. Oh, there's somebody selling, looks like a big Ziploc bag type thing. 3 pound, 3 pounds of, oh, this is dehydrated chicken manure, but it's 3 pounds for $20. There's people selling sheep manure on Amazon. Holy cow, I didn't even know. So yeah, I would say probably in the range for like a gallon size Ziploc bag, which is probably like, I don't know, would that be 5 pounds maybe? I don't, probably not. Probably be like 2 pounds. Probably, you know, maybe $10. You could sell it for maybe $10. That'd be a good deal. But again, you're going to need to dry it out. You don't want to seal it up fresh and wet in a Ziploc bag. That's going to be kind of nasty. But try it. Try it and let us know. Carol Rogers is hello from New Zealand. Thank you for joining us all the way from New Zealand. Donna says, just came on. I have mixed wood chips at the end of the growing season into my soil for the last 3 years. My vegetables have done very well. This year, I did have to add soil. Interesting. So you mix them in at the end of the season. You know, that might be enough to break them down a little bit. I'd be concerned about it a little bit, but hey, if you're having good luck with it, there's an exception to every rule. And, you know, why change just because I said it's not a good idea? Shows what I know, huh? No, usually it's a bad idea to mix your wood chips in with your soil. But, you know, again, it's just a temporary thing, and it's not going to lock up nitrogen forever. They release it as it starts decomposing, and that may be what's working out well for you. But anyway, Katrina says, I have a video on the watering system on my channel, Sow and Tear. There you go. There's another place you can see how somebody sets up a watering system. Whoa. Jasmine says, no, I completely forgot to email you, Chris. No worries. Okay, good. I want to make sure I hadn't forgotten it. Every once in a while, somebody says they're going to email me, and then I always look out for it. And then when I don't see it, I'm always like, did I miss that? And I forget about it later. Anyway, Donna, to whoever asked about the tap water, I give it to my quail. Tap water hasn't hurt them yet. It's all I have. Yep, me too. Hey, 12 Gauges here says I'm late. That's all right. You guys know we don't keep attendance here. It's all good. Brad says, do you think apple cider vinegar is beneficial to quail water? You know, apple cider vinegar is one of those things that I kind of I shouldn't say I have very strong opinions about. I just get irritated with. And I'll tell you why. But let me answer your question first. Yeah, it's beneficial to your quail, but it's not like magic like people make it out to be. There was a big kick for a while. I haven't seen anything a little while on it. But there was a big kick for a while where people were just touting apple cider vinegar as the cure-all for like everything. And they made it out to where it was like magical. It was going to cure your athlete's foot, your diabetes, I'm maybe exaggerating a little bit, but not much. It was just one of those things where they just over touted it like it was some crazy good thing. You know, it kind of goes along the lines with like the fermented feed and all those kinds of things. All that stuff is good for your feet, for your birds, your animals, your rabbits, your quail, for you as a person. It's all good for you. It's got lactobacillus bacteria. Hope I'm saying that right. I think I am. Same stuff that's in yogurt, the same stuff that's in like fermented foods like sauerkraut and pickles. Not the stuff you buy from the store because that's usually pressure canned, so that kills it all. But it's good for your gut. It is. But it's not like you don't feel like you have to add it to their water. It's not something that is really going to make any kind of noticeable difference. It's not any kind of magic or anything. And if you do add it just a little bit to their water, you don't want to give them straight apple cider vinegar. It would be kind of, I would think, a little bit astringent for them. But yeah, it's good for them. But so is yogurt, so is fermented feed, all those kinds of things. It is good for them, but it's not magical. So I know that's not what you were asking, so forgive me, but I go on every time I hear it. Ed says, Chris, love your quail daddy pick as cousin Eddie. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I thought it turned out okay. Let's see. Tara says, follow up. The hermaphrodite quail was just a late developer. Okay, I remember talking about that. Yeah, I kind of wondered about that one at the time too. Hey, Blessed with Pets is here. Says, any tips on hand feeding bunnies or tips on weaning them? Also, how do you give the first time mom a second chance? I've given my first ever litter and having to hand feed. Well, why? First of all, why are you having to hand feed your rabbits? You shouldn't have to be hand feeding them. Is it just, are you just paranoid about it? Maybe. And I don't mean that rude. It kind of sounds rude, but I don't mean it that way. It's just, you're probably never going to see the mother rabbit feed the babies. It's just something that they tend to do when they're all alone in private, and you just never see it. Other than that, they don't pay much attention to them. They're not like other animals. Rabbits in the wild, for example, they hardly ever, like, you find a rabbit nest, you hardly ever see the mother rabbit there. They just come back to feed the babies and then they leave. They don't want to draw predators in. It's kind of an instinct of theirs. So, just because you're not seeing the babies being fed, chances are they probably are being fed. Now, okay, let's assume that, there is some kind of issue and you are having to hand feed them. You could feed them, you can feed them a kitten milk replacement or a goat milk replacement. Those would be the things that you would look for. Probably feed them, a couple of times a day, about as much as they'll take. Either a small bottle, or who was it earlier was talking about feeding them through a syringe, maybe. Giving them a little bit of time to take that up. It's going to take a little bit of time for them to eat that much. You're going to have to be patient with them. As far as weaning them goes, they're pretty much will self-wean. When they get about 10 days old, roughly, they'll start venturing out. They'll start eating some of mom's, food. They're not completely weaned at that point. You need to give them some time. You really don't want to wean them until about 6 weeks old or later. And I know some people will say they wean them earlier, but 6 weeks is kind of the general. That's the good time to do it. And that's where you just take the milk completely away, move them away from mom, or quit feeding them with the milk replacement or whatever it is. There's not much to it. It's pretty straightforward, pretty simple. By the time they're 6 weeks old, they're eating solid food. Just make sure they have access to it. They're eating it. They're going to be fine. To just quit giving them milk. They're good. That's about all you got to do. All right, Brad, you didn't listen to instructions, but that's okay. We'll give you a break here. This is the third time you've asked me about apple cider vinegar, because I guess you didn't get a response quick enough. You got to give me time to get to these. It takes me a little while. Just watch the comments I'm responding to. If it comes after something you ask, because occasionally I do miss one, then feel free to go ahead and ask it again. But there's no need to ask the same question 4 or 5 times before I've even had a chance to get to it. But again, I'm not trying to be hateful. It's okay. But just, give me time to get to them next time. Ed says at the Kramer Family Channel, check out Living Traditions' latest YouTube videos. They talk about selling rabbit poop. I didn't know that. I've seen some of their videos recently, but I didn't see one they were talking about. I'll have to go check that out. Ruby Red says, hey, I use avocado oil in my rabbit's ears to help them clean easier. It looked like 2 had 1 small bite scab. Not sure if it was ear mites. Don't see any. How frequently should I do that? Done it 3 times in 2 weeks. If it's ear mites, they're gonna be deep down in the ear. That's where the scabs are gonna start. So if you're seeing it up towards the top of the ear or something like that, it's probably just a scratch. I wouldn't worry about it at all. I don't treat my rabbits for ear mites. I don't worry about preventative treatment on it. When you start seeing like way down in the ear and working their way up, that's when I treat them. Treat them pretty much every day until the scabs disappear, and then every week and a half, something like that. Sometimes 2 weeks, something like that. All right, Donna says, to everyone, what kind of quail feed do you feed your quail? My quail are 10 weeks old and not laying eggs. Well, that probably has nothing to do with the feed. It might. I personally feed a game bird starter to my birds. It's a 30% protein game bird starter. I find they do really, really well on that. But, quail, the feed usually doesn't have as much impact on their egg laying as do other circumstances. Primarily, it's going to be light. They needed 14 hours a day of light in order to lay on a consistent basis. So, we're just getting there. I'm just getting eggs out of my birds. I don't have any external lights on them right now, so I'm relying completely on natural light. I've got 2 hutches. Both birds are plenty old enough to be laying. One hutch they were laying at the end of last season. The other hutch are newer birds. They're younger. They've come of age, but they never started laying. They were hatched out at the beginning of winter, and so anyway, they had never started laying. The hutch that was laying last year, they've started laying again, but it's only been about a week and a half, 2 weeks since I've started getting eggs. And now I'm getting really consistent eggs production out of them. I get 6 eggs a day, every day out of those birds. There's like 6 hens in there. maybe more. I don't know, not much more. The other hutch, they haven't even started laying yet. And it's probably because they just need a little bit more time. They've never laid eggs before. It takes them a little bit more time to get going. The days are just not quite 14 hours a day of light yet. So it's just not quite right. If you want to really bump them up and get them encourage them to lay a little bit faster, and you're not doing this already, add an external light of some kind. It can be a little solar shed light, whatever. It doesn't have to be super bright. Bright enough to read by would be plenty. And extend the daylight up to about 14 hours a day. Give them a week and a half of that. They'll probably start laying eggs. The other thing that prevents them from laying eggs or that can affect their egg laying is stress. So if they have high stress factors like predators pestering them, if you got way too many roosters and they're really pestering the hens trying to breed, then that can be a stress factor for them. Or if you're moving them around a lot, they don't like to be moved from one cage to another. So if you're taking them out, from one cage, putting them in another cage, something like that, that can stress them out a little bit too. That could keep them from laying. But those are the things that you kind of want to look at. I do find that my birds tend to do a little bit better on higher protein, but there's plenty of people out there that are using, once their birds get, 8 weeks old or whatever, they're dropping to a, 18%, 20% protein, and they do just fine. So, it's really not the feed that really causes the issues. Jasmine says, I used a lot of rabbit manure in my garden beds today. It felt great to build up growing spaces without buying the amendments. This is my first year I haven't needed to. Still perfecting my compost. Awesome. Yeah, compost is, it takes some work to make some really good compost, but it's not that hard. Grab a drink here. Compost, if you guys don't know already, you get me going on compost. I like compost. It's one of my favorite things. It's just a breaking down of organic matter. It takes carbon, it takes nitrogen. So your nitrogen is going to be like your green materials, your leafy greens, your most of your kitchen scraps are considered nitrogen stuff. What else? Grass clippings. Grass clippings are actually almost the perfect mix of nitrogen and carbon. If you just mow your lawn and then pile it up in a big pile, it'll turn to compost super fast. It's crazy how quick that breaks down. So grass clippings are really good. Your carbon materials are going to be primarily more of your brown, like straw, wood chips, any kind of brown paper bags, like not plastic paper, of course, brown paper bags, that kind of stuff, paper itself. That's all going to be like dead leaves. That's all carbon material. So if you mix them about half and half by volume, really weight's probably the best way, but it's almost impossible to try to figure out the weight of all this stuff, So if you mix them about half and half, mix them in real good together and keep it, fairly well watered. You don't want it sopping wet, like just water running off of it, but you want it damp. You don't want it to dry out completely. You turn it every couple of weeks, turn it every week if you want to. By turning, I mean just kind of stir it up a little bit. I usually move it from one pile to another. It will break down pretty quick, and you'll get good compost out of that. You can make, I can get compost if I really work at it in like 2.5, 3 weeks from starting a compost pile to finished compost. But it is a little bit of work. I don't usually do it because we have a compost facility. Our town does, and I can get it for free. So I can just go over there with a 5-gallon bucket, scoop it up and dump it in the back of my truck and bring it home. I find a 5-gallon bucket's a lot easier to scoop compost with than a shovel. But because you get 5 gallons at a time, and it's a lot less work. Brad says, sorry for the multiple posts on the same question, trying to figure out this. Hey, it's no problem. It's okay. Like I said, I'm not mad about it. I'm just giving you some advice. So it's all good. Tara says, apparently there is a fertilizer shortage presently. Well, I wouldn't know anything about that. I don't buy fertilizer really. Not often anyway. I mean, I do occasionally for some specialized things, but for the most part, I just use compost, rabbit manure, organic material. That's really it. Andrew says, do you ever get poop buildup on the wire where the quail come through the door from the sandbox? I've had a real issue with that the last couple of months. Really? No, I don't have really any problems with that. It builds up on the wire itself. I would think that once it dries out, you should be able to just kind of wire brush or something, just knock it loose and it just fall right through. But I don't know. It may be a little bit of a different issue. Let's see. Sarah says they're selling rabbit poop on Etsy as well. Really interesting, though. There's a couple of avenues for you. Blessed with Pets says, my rabbit poop just falls to the ground and I just rake it into the side every now and then. So I just have a huge pile of poop. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. It makes great fertilizer. Mix it in with your garden soil, mix it in with your potted plants, all that stuff. It's great. Hey, Robin Song is here. Good to see you. Charles says, hey, Chris, it's Chip. What would be a good time for hatching quail eggs? The best time to hatch quail eggs was probably last month. The next best time is right now. No, I'm kidding. That's an old saying about planting a tree. The best time to plant a tree was 10 years ago. The next best time is right now. But really, any time. I mean, it depends. I don't like to personally hatch quail in the wintertime because it's just a little bit more difficult when it comes to, brooding them out. I have to brood them out longer. I like to wait till, our days are not getting below, say, 60 degrees at night, and then I hatch them out because, once they hit about 2 weeks and they're fully feathered out, they can just go right out to the outside hutch. It's just a lot easier for me. But you can hatch them anytime you want. It's really up to you. S.O. Swanson says, rabbit manure typically $1 a pound, depends on your location. Dried and ground offer pints and gallons. Everyone loves a choice. There you go. That's a good suggestion. Yeah, grinding it up, I would think, would make it probably a little bit more marketable. But at the same time, you're going to have a lot more. It's going to take a lot more product, if you're selling it by the weight, it wouldn't. But if you're selling by the volume, like a pint or a gallon or whatever, a gallon of ground rabbit manure is a whole lot more rabbit manure than a gallon of just rabbit manure, that's been dried. All right. Verna says, have a blessed night, everyone. Oh, you're leaving early, Verna. Good to see you. Thanks for joining us. And I hope you have a good evening. Ed says, Chris, not sure if you know, there's a national shortage of fertilizer and farmers are turning to cow poo, but the stockpiles of that is running out fast. Yeah, I can imagine it would. My grandfather always used horse manure on his garden. Cow manure is pretty hot. Horse manure is not quite as hot, and it won't burn your plants. It won't give them too much nitrogen. But yeah, that's interesting. Good thing I don't have to worry about buying fertilizer, I suppose. Donna says, no, it wasn't meant to be mean about the chips. Oh, no, I didn't take it as mean. It's just how things roll for me. If it's not supposed to be done, it works. If it's supposed to be done, it doesn't work. Yeah. I mean, there's an exception to every rule and not everything's quite as, cut and dry as people make it out to be, but I get it. Let's see. Kramer Favorite Channel says it is safe to use alum and salt to soften a pelt for fleshing and then use the high tanning solution during the drying stretching process. Don't want to make a toxic combination or make the fur fall off. Good question. I really don't know. I don't know that much about tanning. I've tried a couple of different times, but I usually lose interest and don't finish it and, ruin the pelts. I forget about them as they're, pickling or whatever. But let's see, alum and salt, and then a tanning. I don't know what tanning solution, you're going to be using. I don't know that I can answer that one for you. I'm sorry. I wish I could. I would just say, look up the ingredients that are in the tanning solution that you have and see how they're going to react with anything. Then again, if you're using alum and salt to soften the pelt for fleshing, if you just wash it off really good, then it should be fine to use anything on it at that point. I wouldn't worry about it. Let's see. Blessed with Pets says she didn't pull fur and had them on the wire and they were all over the ground. I put them in the nest box and she dug them out. I flipped the mother on her back and they eat 8 days now and 3 out of 6 alive. Oh, okay. That makes sense. Sounds like you're doing the right thing. I mean, that's the best you can do for them. I'm sorry you're having those issues. How are we doing on time? Oh my gosh, we only got 15 minutes left. Time is flying. It sounds like you're, the reason I noticed that is because my soda's about gone. All right. I'm sorry you're having those issues, but it sounds like you're doing the right thing. Just keep at it. Hopefully she's going to start taking care of herself. I think, if this is the first time mom, I'd give her another try, maybe 2. But if this is a continuing issue, it seems like we've talked about this before. It may be time to go ahead and look for a new rabbit. Let's see. Heather says, oh, you know what? Kramer Family Channel. That's a good point. They're not talking to me. They're talking to Ruby Red. Says, I'm pretty sure avocado is toxic to rabbits. At least that's what I was told. I think you're right. I think avocado is toxic to rabbits. I completely forgot about that. Didn't even think about it when you were asking. Let me look it up. avocado is toxic to most animals, though. So yeah, you probably want to avoid avocado oil. Let's see. Yeah, avocado is one of the most dangerous foods for rabbits. That's because it contains a toxic compound called persin. It can cause breathing problems. It can lead to heart failure. So yeah, you probably want to avoid avocado oil. Thank you for that reminder, Kramer Family Channel. Appreciate it. Says if the kids have big bellies twice a day, they're eating well. My first aid comment is because I'm feeding a kid who keeps missing feeding time, even though its sibling is fed and absolutely enormous. Yeah, I get it completely. And thank you for the tips that you shared on that too. I appreciate that. Sage Wolf says, a question, can kitty litter be used in the sandbox for the quail, or is this something in it that is not good for the quail that may eat that the quail may eat? Well, it depends on what kind of kitty litter, probably. Sorry, I got distracted by another comment. I'll get to that here in a minute. It depends on what's in the kitty litter. Let me look at the ingredient list and see what it is. I think I would avoid it for the most part because there's probably going to be some kind of silica, types. I don't know that it's great for them, but again, it depends on what's in it. I don't know why you'd want to use kitty litter versus sand. A bag of sand is like a couple of dollars I think it's probably cheaper than kitty litter. But that's just my thought on it. So I don't really know for sure. I would have to look through the ingredients list and then do a search and find out what's toxic to them and what's not. But I would stay away from it if it were me. Jesse says, let's see, Chris, it's Living Tradition's newest video about the farmer's market. I saw that one post, but I haven't watched it yet. I'll have to go check it out. And that's a good idea, though, actually. I didn't even think about it. If you have a local farmer's market, that may be a good place to sell rabbit manure as well, especially early in the season like now. Blessed with Pets says, one of the babies has a foot that's shrunk and hard at the end. I think the foot is dead. Should I just leave it? Yeah, I don't know that there's much else you can do about it. What's the other option? Amputate it? I don't think I'd want to try to do that. It does sound like they probably, a broken bone or something like that. Watch it closely, make sure it's not getting infected or something. But I don't know that there's much else you can do about it. Ruby Red says, I got quail for my parents in March. Awesome. They finally laid their first 2 eggs today and yesterday. I think time change and solar lights definitely made the biggest difference. I don't know why the time change would affect them, but okay, maybe it did. There's probably more to that than what I'm reading in there, but the quail don't really have any concept of the time. I'm sure that's not what you meant by that. There's probably more to it than that. Just made me laugh a little bit. Katrina says, me too. I scoop compost and wood chips with a 5-gallon bucket, and my boyfriend makes fun of me for it. Good to know someone else does this too. Yeah, it's so easy. It's so much easier to scoop it with 5-gallon buckets than it is with a shovel. You get so much more per scoop. It saves your back. It's so much easier. Diversity Love says, you're handsome. Just a compliment. Don't worry. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. All right, there's let's see. Donna says to Sage Wolf, not to use kitty litter. Says the chemical miss in the kitty litter. I think it's the chemical that's in the kitty litter will kill quails. I did research on that, and it's a definite no. Well, good to know. I haven't researched it, but yeah, I think I would avoid it too, just out of caution. Boyd says, what's your favorite incubator? Any thoughts on homemade incubators? I haven't made, well, take that back. When I was a kid, we made an incubator. It was just kind of a wooden box with a plexiglass front, had a incandescent light bulb in it on a dimmer switch that we dimmed, and we hatched chicken eggs in that. It worked pretty well, but I don't know that that's a great solution. It was a lot of manual intervention to make sure the temperature stayed right, so it wasn't probably ideal. My favorite incubator right now is my Little Giant because it's the only one I have. It works. I just haven't had to worry about replacing it yet. I don't have a whole lot of experience with whole lots of different incubators. You might check with Zach from My Shire. He did a whole series of videos on different incubators, so that and he was testing them out and showing how they worked and all that kind of stuff. So there's a whole lot to choose from out there, and I know Terry at Katernik's Corner had a video on a homemade incubator that he made. and showed how to make. So that's a good place to check out as well. Blessed with Pets says 3 babies died before the first feeding. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. I hope that she figures it out pretty quick. Robert Head says, hey, from Hayden, Alabama, here you have to, or here, have you had a problem with, okay, have you had a problem with older female birds attacking younger female birds in the colony? Well, occasionally, quail can be kind of aggressive towards each other. I tend to, when it comes to aggression. So if I've got birds that are just picking on other birds, and it usually is the hens for some reason, they're the aggressive ones, I call them out. Now, let me back up and say something. If these are newly introduced, like if you just introduced birds to your flock, there's going to be some fighting. That usually will subside after a little while. I'm talking about birds that have been together for a long time. They're well acclimated to each other, and then all of a sudden one of them turns on another one and starts picking on them and beating them up, and then I'll call them pretty hard. But if it is, you've just introduced new birds to your flock and they're getting beat up a little bit, don't worry about that. Just let it go. It's probably going to sort itself out. If it doesn't, keep an eye on them, make sure they're not doing serious, harm to them. If it doesn't, clear up, then go ahead and call. Katrina says, I just started pickling my rabbit hides and I'm following the process on Good Simple Living with salt and alum. I'll let you know how it works for me once it's done. Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate that. Ruby Red says, thank you for letting me know. You're absolutely welcome. Robert says, and how do you put female birds together without fighting? Okay, so that's a little bit more what we were talking about. Yeah, that's tricky. And it's not just female birds. It's any birds you put together without them fighting is tricky to do. When you introduce new birds to a flock, there's almost always going to be fighting. Now, a couple of things that I've done that have worked really well. If they're really young birds, like 3 weeks, 4 weeks old, somewhere right around in there, usually you can mix them in with the flock, no problems. They tend to just take them, no big deal at all. If you're trying to mix adult birds, though, that can be a little tricky, and you may have to do some kind of, creative things to get them to work together. So if it's possible and you have different, hutches or whatever, if you take maybe half of the birds that are in the hutch that you're getting ready to introduce new birds to, mix them in with half of the birds that are new in another hutch, and then put the other half of those birds in that hutch. If you can give them all a new surrounding to where it's not their normal home turf that they're getting new birds introduced to, then they seem to get along a little bit better. That's something you can try. Somebody said spray them down with a mixture of water and vinegar, like 50% vinegar, 50% water, and then move your new birds in. I don't know why that would work, but some people suggested that. Said it had to do with smell, but as far as I know, birds don't really have much of a sense of smell. So I don't know how that would work, but it's something else you can try. Or if you have a way of sectioning off your cage to where the new birds can go in one side, the older birds in the other side, they get some time to kind of introduce to each other without, getting beat up or anything. And then eventually the idea is that you should be able to open that up and just let them mingle. Those are a couple of things you can try. Or wait till it's not breeding season, wait till, or cover their cage up so they don't get much light. They quit crowing, they quit laying eggs, and then they're a little bit less aggressive and it's a little bit easier to go ahead and mingle those birds together. There's a couple of suggestions on it, but none of them are great. Sometimes if you just throw the birds in there, just let them fight it out for a little while, they'll usually get over it. All right. Sage says, someone asked if kitty litter was okay, and I was just checking. I've always used play sand myself. Thanks. Oh, yeah. No problem. That makes sense. And, I think we already figured that out, actually. Kitty litter is probably not okay. Kathleen says, how do you dry rabbit manure? I think rabbit manure. How do you dry it? What I would probably do is I think it would probably be easiest to dry on some kind of like wire rack of some kind. Set it out with good airflow, so like, I don't know, maybe take some hardware cloth, build a frame for it. It wouldn't have to be huge. Build a frame for it so it stays stiff, or maybe even just set it out. I don't know. Set it up on a couple of blocks or something so it gets airflow underneath it and above it. Set it out I don't know if I'd set it out in direct sun, maybe a shady location. A couple of days, it should dry out. Kramer says, are you doing Cornish this year? If so, how many are you raising and what's your goal weight? We're raising ours to 16 weeks for 10-pound average yield. Yeah, that's big. That's a big bird. We'll probably do some more Cornish hens this year, assuming they're not hard to find. We'll probably do some more. How many we'll do, I don't know yet. 15, maybe 20, somewhere right around in there. We still have a couple of birds left from last year's run. So, trying to gauge how much we'll actually eat. We slacked off a little while during the year, got kind of lazy, and didn't eat a whole lot of chicken from our freezer. Boyd says, thanks, I'll check them out. I don't remember what we were talking about, but hopefully it helps. Blessed with Pets says, but now I have 2 Harlequins with a tricolor baby bunnies, produced great colors. Hope she takes care of these next time. How long do you think I should wait to rebreed? If she's got babies with her now, I'd give her till they were weaned, 6 weeks old, roughly, before I rebred her. Kathleen wants to know if I still have rabbits. I don't have any right now. My rabbits got pretty old, kind of aged out, so I'm in the process of looking for new breeders. I'm trying to find some good pedigree rabbits. Either a New Zealand white, maybe silver foxes. I was looking for Tamuks for a long time, but I can't find any close by, and I can't find time to go get them. Make a 4-hour trip to go pick up some rabbits. But I am looking for some good pedigree rabbits. I'll get some eventually. It may take a little while, but hopefully sooner rather than later. Gary B says, good evening. Just got home and found an egg in my brooder tractor at 5.5 weeks old. Jumbo white-winged chicks. First time seeing eggs this early. That is very early. Overachievers for sure. Congratulations on it. Miko says, how long can quail chicks stay in the incubator after hatching? They can stay up to 48 hours or so. I usually try to move them out after about 24 when they're all dry and fluffy. But you can leave them in there longer. Actually, I think they can stay in there up to 72 hours. But that's pushing it, 72 hours. So nothing wrong with 48, though. If you need to let them go 2 days, let them go 2 days. They're going to be fine. Diversity Love says coconut coir is good for litter. Oh, is coconut coir good for litter? For litter for what? Are we talking about like for rabbits or for quail? I don't know that it'd be a great option for them. My concern with that would be, it may not be. I look into it and see. I don't have a ton of experience dealing with coconut coir, but my is it called coir? I don't ever know how to pronounce it exactly, but anyway, I know what you're talking about. My concern with that would be that as rabbits or quail, their droppings hit it, they urinate on it, that kind of stuff. It's going to get either moldy or start breaking down. If it starts breaking down into compost, it's going to get hot, and I don't know that would be the best option for them. But who knows? Try it out. If you're cleaning it out pretty regularly, no big deal. That's not an issue at all. Dennis says, just purchased 5 dozen quail eggs today, ready to start again after 25 plus years. Oh my. Yeah, good luck with it. I hope you have a great hatch on those. Kramer Family Homestead says, Mother Wolf Rabbitry is my rabbitry. I raise pedigree New Zealand, silver fox, and Rex. Where are you located, though? You're probably a ways away from me. If you were close, man, I'd be over there as soon as I could to get some. Dennis says, getting them north of you, always like around Kansas City. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. And Witch Doctor's here. Hello. You're almost out of time. We're about ready to end. We only got just a couple of minutes left here, but anyway. Oh, Dennis says don't want to say because they're cutting back. Yeah, I think I know who you're talking about. Great supplier there, and I know the kind of the situation around that, and hopefully it'll be a temporary, somewhat temporary. Hopefully they'll get back into it eventually. Let's see. Kathleen says to Kramer family, I'm looking for a pedigree buck. And Witch Doctor, let me see if I can. You're not telling us where you're at. I want to know where you're at. Did it search for Kramer Family Farm and it auto-suggested Kramer Family Funeral Home? Where is that? Conception Junction? Is that you guys? Where is that? I'm looking it up, trying to find where you're located. Let's see. Did you tell us already? Oh, Moundford, Tennessee, right near the Boot Hill of Missouri. Okay. Yeah, that's a little ways away. That is, I appreciate all what I looked up, but yeah, that's, let's see what I'm looking at here. Yeah, that's we're looking at probably a 6-hour drive or so. It's just a little too far for me to get going there, but all right. Hey, Witch Doctor's going to QuailCon this year. Good. I look forward to seeing you guys there. And Kathleen's in Jefferson County, Missouri. So, all right, guys, I got to wrap this one up for tonight. So, should be back next week. Hopefully, I don't see any of it at this point, but you never know what's going to come up between now and then. But hey, hopefully, we will see you next week right here. Same channel, same time. So, that sounds familiar, doesn't it? Anyway, thanks for watching tonight, guys. Thanks for joining me. I always look forward to this time I get to spend with you guys. God bless each and every one of you, and we'll see you guys next week. Take care.